This page, blimey, look at that cover, proper classic stuff. Right here we've got N64 Pro proudly declaring itself the world's biggest N64 mag. And look, a huge contest, over £1,000 worth of kit up for grabs, very generous. Top left, there's a little shout out to a Star Wars freebie book, and apparently a Vigilante 8 Minimag guide too. The big draw here is Worms, getting a world's first look apparently. That big angry worm character looks ready for action, dynamite and shotgun in hand. Cracking stuff. Down the right they've been played to death, some big titles, Quake 2, Mario Golf, Superman and World Driver Championship. Interesting lineup there. And speaking of Superman, he's front and center, getting reviewed. Warrington Male Voice Choir. Down the bottom we get a glimpse of some other games covered with screenshots. 40 Winks, Road Rash and Destruction Derby. Plus, a rather stylish alien promising a look at hipster. Tipex. Looks like a packed issue. This gaming magazine boasts a massive cheats and tips section with cheats for over 1,064, PlayStation, PC and Game Boy games, featuring a cheat master. Readers can get instant fixes via an audio hotline, with a cost, or a fax service. The magazine's quirky team members are highlighted, including Tipax, with their unique phobias. A cover character, the Angry Worm, demands readers read the magazine and pre-order their Worms game. The 8 Commandments outline their editorial promises, and a competition offers prizes like a Dreamcast and a 28-inch TV. This page is the cover of N64 Pro from August 1999. Right there is that Angry Worm, the one they were banging on about last issue. Turns out the big cover story is all about Worms, and its glorious multiplayer action coming to the N64. Seems they're quite excited about it, saying it'll change lives or something daft like that. They're also pushing some free guides this month, one for Vigilante 8 and another for Star Wars Episode I Racer. Yeah, the pod racing one. Apparently, Tipex has gone all out ripping the game apart, which sounds about right for him. The cover also teases a bunch of reviews, including Quake 2, Mario Golf, World Driver Championship, and Superman. Plus there's a look at Destruction Derby 64 and Carmageddon in the blueprint section, which I vaguely remember getting a mention in the news last time. Loads of other regular sections like tips and cheats, news, coming soon, and reader reviews are plastered all over the shop, along with pictures of Superman, some weird alien bloke, Scoop the dog, and that safari chap. Looks like a packed issue, doesn't it? This page is exactly what the cover promised. There's that enormous, rather angry-looking worm character, all armed up. The big cover story is indeed all about Worms Armageddon hitting the N64 and Game Boy Color, and they sound absolutely buzzing about it. Apparently the Worms are back and mean business, promising loads of new weapons, features, and general explosive chows for multiplayer mayhem and single-player battles. They even quote Scoop the dog, saying Worms has wriggled its way into millions of households, which is fair enough, it's bloody addictive. Elsewhere in the news section, there's a look at Rugrats' scavenger hunt for the N64. Seems like a Mario Party-style board game featuring Tommy, Chucky, Lil and Phil, and even Angelica, with minigames and cookie collecting. The visuals look just like the cartoon, so that's something. Dane Gority. Then there's Road Rash 64, back on the N64 after being around for donkey's years. It's still the same old motorcycle combat racing, whacking opponents with pipes and hammers while dodging traffic. Looks like it's shaping up nicely on the N64. Over on the right you've got the charts, showing the top-selling games in the UK and on Game Boy Color, plus the N64 Pro's most wanted list. Looks like F1 World Grand Prix was number 1 in the UK, and Mario DX topped the Game Boy Color chart. Jet Force Gemini was number 1 on the N64 wanted list. There's also a little competition to predict the next chart, offering a game voucher. This N64 magazine preview highlights several upcoming games. Michael Owen's World League Soccer is touted as a superior football title, featuring impressive moves and celebrations. Destruction Derby 64 promises chaotic racing with intense crashes. Carmageddon 64, based on the PC game, offers zombie-smashing action. The magazine also advertises competitions for a unique hand spider crawler and WCW wrestling figures. Finally, Premier Manager 64, endorsed by Kevin Keegan, is promoted as the only football management sim on N64. This page is all about winning some serious N64 kit. Joytech are giving away 8 fantastic starter packs, apparently worth €1,000 in euros. That's a tidy sum back then. You could snag a steering wheel, essential for any racing sim obviously, a joypad, because you can never have too many, a couple of memory cards, save files people, save files, a rechargeable jolt pack, no idea what that does, sounds exciting though, and even a RAM expansion pack to get that maximum picture quality. To win, you needed to draw your ultimate N64 joypad design. Sounds like fun. They even mentioned throwing in a SCART cable, which is just lovely of them. On the right, we've got a shot of planet Earth, calling it the playing field. Bit dramatic in it. And look, it's promoting the Dreamcast website. Looks like Sega were keen to get the N64 crowd thinking about their next console, even here. Sneaky! This page is hosted by Scoop, who apparently thinks modern art is a load of old pollocks. He'd much rather show off these splendiferous screenshots from upcoming 64 games. It's Scoop's gallery of games, a priceless collection of paw prints apparently. First up, we've got Armorines, which sounds like it's got some nasty insectoid aliens that have infested Scoop's kennel. You'll be dealing with swarms of them, apparently. Looks like it's coming out, Deckjur. Then there's Resident Evil 64, putting you in the shoes of a shoe-us cop. This time, you actually are supposed to shoot the people, because they're zombies. Much simpler than the usual police work, eh? That's due out November. Down below, there's Harrier 2001. Scoop admits he's just a pooch and not a pilot, so he reckons he'd just trash the multi-million-pound jet into a cliff. Fair enough. Looks like you'll be flying in September. We also see Supercross 2000, described as knee-scraping, heart-pumping dirt biking that's muddier than a Glastonbury mud wrestling contest. Sounds exhilarating. Get ready to race out, Sep. Gominton Neglast. Finally, there's Knockout Wings, a boxing game that Scoop saw at E3. He reckons it's going to be a knockout, naturally. You can step into the ring in October. This page lays out the future, doesn't it? Right then, first off, Paul Mark's a bit glum about the Jet Force Gemini delay, but he's chuffed about One World Grand Prix 2 and other hot games filling the gap. Down below, they've got a couple of must-buys. World Driver Championship looks proper ace, hailed as the best driving game with tense races and realistic handling. Lovely stuff. And Quake 2 is in there too, a fast and furious shooter with top-notch graphics. Can't argue with that. Haha. Naturally, there's the big ol' release schedule table, listing games planned out for the next year or so with who's making them, and when they're due out in the UK and us. Plenty to look forward to there if you like planning ahead. Further down under Bubbling Under, South Park Rally is getting a shout-out. Looks like a kart racer hoping to give Mario a run for his money, complete with power-ups and, apparently, sampled swearing. That sounds unique. And finally, the forthcoming attractions section is all about cartoon capers. We've got Tasmanian Express, where you spin around eating everything, a Rugrats board game that looks stunning, Looney Tunes, Space Race, which is another one for the racers with Roadrunner apparently in the mix, and South Park, Chef's Love Shack, which looks like some kind of party game judging by the character layout and the whole lotta love line. Plenty of character fun coming up then. This page is all about the big software house leagues. Forget your football tables, this is where the real competition is, with publishers going head-to-head based on how well their games score with the review team. You've got the Premier League and Division 1, all laid out with points awarded for excellent, good, average and yes, shite games. Looks like Nintendo are bossing the Premier League this month, fair play to them. Gooya. Then there's the Reader Dream Team, a bit of fun, where they pick games like a fantasy football squad, giving little write-ups on each one. Some proper dodgy characters in that lineup, like Holy Magic Century apparently having a pathetic figure, and War Gods being a noisy, dull player. Sounds about right. Down below, the overall picture gives a breakdown of all the games reviewed this month, showing how many fell into each scoring category from excellent down to crap. Always interesting to see the percentages there. There are little screenshots dotted about showing some of the games that featured, like Ken Griffey's Junior Slugfest, Premier Manager, Bugs Life, and Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, amongst others. Seems like a mixed bag this month, some winners and some definite losers fighting it out in the league tables. This page delves into the nitty-gritty of the month's reviews, kicking off with the reviewers, giving us the lowdown from Steve, Mark, Paul, Noelle, Lewis and James. It sounds like Steve had a lovely time with Mario Golf, while Mark got his kicks from Quake 2 and is still waiting for Perfect Dark. Aren't we all, mate? Paul's off rediscovering Banjo-Kazooie, Lewis is musing on Superman, and James is bigging up Quake 2, GoldenEye and Turok. Then there's the scores, laying out their rating system from 100 down to 0. Anything 90 or over is a must-buy, while under 50 is where the scabby dogs live, apparently. They also dish out the Sore Thumb Award for games you'd happily kill your granny for, listing classics like GoldenEye 007, Mario 64, 1080 Snowboarding and Zelda. Proper top-tier stuff that. Finally, the lowdown explains how they break down the reviews, looking at graphics, sound, gameplay, and how long the blasted thing lasts. It also flags up the league points, tying to the previous page, and promises other views. You can see screenshots featuring Quake 2 20, Mario Golf 26, World Driver Championship 30, and the rather maligned Superman 34, with a score of crappy. Seems like Superman didn't quite live up to the hype. This page dives headfirst into the much-anticipated N64 version of Quake 2, asking the big question, can this PC powerhouse hang with the likes of Turok and the mighty GoldenEye? It seems the reviewer James, who was buzzing about it on the previous page, reckons it's going to be one heck of a scrap. You play as a lone marine sent to stop the Strogs, these lovely aliens who fancy turning Earth into a car park. Charming. The review gives you a rundown of the serious firepower on offer in hand cannon heaven, listing off the shotguns, machine gun, grenade launcher, rocket launcher, railgun, hyper blaster, and even the legendary BFG-10K. Proper tools of terror indeed. There's also a little tip extra nugget suggesting you look for hidden areas behind walls for some handy bonus goodies. And speaking of handy, the charging section walks you through a mission example with screenshots, showing you'll need to hunt down explosives and blast your way through obstacles, like taking out a fragile pipe or riding a lift. It gives you a visual taste of the level progression and objectives. Looks like classic Quake action brought to the N64. This page doubles down on the Quake 2 goodness, first digging into the total control system. It seems the N64 version lets you properly customize your controls, which is a big thumbs up, allowing you to tailor the setup exactly how you like it. None of that rigid nonsense. Then it moves on to training your aim on the lovely inhabitants of the Strog homeworld. We get introduced to the main cast of annoying enemies, from the basic light guards and shotgun fellas, up to the proper heavy hitters like the berserkers, gunners, and the absolute unit that is the tank. They all come with their own nasty ways of trying to end your day, so learning who does what is pretty key if you want to survive. The gameplay loop, according to the review, is all about stocking up on ammo and letting it fly. It leans into the game's PC multiplayer heritage, focusing on fast pacey fragging rather than sneaky tactics. It sounds like pure, unadulterated chows, especially in multiplayer, where hunting down opponents with a BFG sounds like a highlight. We also get more glimpses of the levels, with screenshots showing exploration, hints about concealed buttons leading to secret areas, always a bonus, and a little numbered walkthrough showing a typical sequence of dodging hazards and taking down a big gunner. It all paints a picture of a straightforward, action-packed shooter experience. A review of Quake 2 for the N64 praises its fast-paced, action-packed gameplay, particularly in multiplayer. The review highlights the game's satisfying guts-for-glory experience, with powerful weapons and a focus on frantic multiplayer action dubbed four-way fragging. While the single-player campaign isn't as refined as some other titles, the multiplayer is considered top-notch, potentially making the game worthwhile for its competitive modes alone. Graphics are deemed a solid addition to the N64 library, though sound is noted as less impressive. The review concludes with an 83% score, and a recommendation for fans of multiplayer shooters with friends. Poor. This page is all about Mario Golf, and the headline boldly declares, "Chubby men waddling around in comical clothing. Who says Mario Golf's not realistic?" Cheeky! There's a huge photo of a slightly creepy life-size Mario costume waddling on a golf course, alongside screenshots from the game. The review kicks off with the writer confessing they bluffed their way into reviewing it by claiming to be a golfing expert with a handicap of 10. A bold move, but hey, whatever gets the job done, right? They describe the game itself as cute and cuddly, as a kitten that's fallen in a bath full of champagne, which is certainly a way to put it. It seems to ditch photorealistic courses for delightful Marlow Land-inspired ones, full of wacky characters and cheerful tunes. They highlight the whole gangs here, showcasing some of the playable characters like Yoshi, Baby Mario, Peach, Luigi, Plum, and the man himself, Mario, giving little quips about each. There's also a helpful Tip XTRA section, offering advice on reading the wind and selecting clubs, and even a diagram of the N64 controller showing which buttons do what. Looks like a fun, unpretentious take on golf, exactly what you'd expect from a Mario sports title. A review of Mario Golf gives it a 92% score, praising its diverse modes, including Crazy Mode and Tournament, challenging hazards, and N64-style gameplay. Multiplayer is lauded, and single-player offers unlockables and unique modes like Ringshot. Despite not being a full simulation, the game incorporates terrain, wind, and character strengths. Graphics and gameplay get 9/10, sound 7/10, and replayability a perfect 10. Reviewers generally agree it's a highly enjoyable and deep game. This page dives headfirst into the world of racing, reviewing World Driver Championship. The genie intro sets the scene, asking for 3 wishes, and the review suggests this game might just be one of them for fans of realism. Right off the bat, the reviewer, Mark, makes it clear this isn't your usual N64 arcade racer. Forget the radical jumps, crazy power-ups, or wicked-style futuristic flying ships. This is a proper, top-notch realistic racing game. Blimey about time. The game's realism is its big draw, praised for its handling, gorgeous tracks, and detailed car models. Apparently the Ferraris look fantastic, making everything else seem like a loony loaded larder. Ouch, but fair enough. This isn't a game where you can just floor it. You'll need to actually use the brakes and learn the tracks, much like the mighty Gran Turismo, which it's compared favorably against. There are plenty of screenshots showing off the visuals, and some helpful tips, like going easy on the gas, unless you want to spin out like a yo-yo. The controller diagram is there to show you what button does what, standard stuff really. It even snagged a Sore Thumb Award winner badge, which probably means it's properly challenging, and requires a bit of graft. Looks like a solid racer for those wanting something a bit more serious on the N64. This page continues the deep dive into World Driver Championship, showing off more of what makes this game tick. We get a look at the pedal metal, which means the cars themselves. While they might not have the official badges, the review insists they drive like the real deal, complete with screenshots showing off different teams and models. Then it's on to the tarmac, highlighting the tracks. The reviewer raves about how awesome they look, packed with twists and turns that will really test your thumbs, apparently to the point of numbness. More screenshots display diverse locations like Hawaii, Las Vegas, and Rome, looking pretty sharp for the era. The big reveal is the score, a whopping 95%. Mark's Y section is pure enthusiasm, calling it like getting chocolate pudding after sprouts and cabbage stew. High praise indeed. He reckons the graphics are distracting in their realism, and the gameplay is so good, you'll be fighting tooth and nail for every position. The breakdown scores back this up, giving top marks for gameplay, and high scores for graphics and lastability, though the sound gets a slightly lower mark. Maybe the engine noises weren't quite up to scratch? 2. Other folk chime in with their thoughts, including a reader review, reinforcing the game's quality and challenge. It looks like this is the real deal for serious racing fans on the N64. This page jumps straight into the review of Superman 64, and honestly, the title, Up, and, comically blunder around the sky. Surely that's not right, tells you everything you need to know. It's penned by Lewis and he's not holding back. The core gameplay highlighted is the ring binder challenges, which seem to involve flying Superman through endless floating rings under a time limit. The review notes this is the bulk of the action, and apparently, changing direction makes him unstable. Miss too many, and you're back to the start, leaving you to weigh up feigning death or trying again. A tip extra. Box even jokes that controlling Superman through a 360 is like trying to perform a rather uncomfortable bodily act. Cadord. The story setup involves Lex Luthor trapping Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen in a virtual world full of, you guessed it, more floating rings that Superman has to fly through. The reviewer hilariously questions this plot, asking, what's all this ring stuff? The controls are described with rather crude and sarcastic labels, suggesting flying feels awkward and combat is limp. A quoted line simply states the game's cat from Tree Dilemma Savage makes you puke. It's pretty clear from the screenshots and the text that despite having all of Superman's powers, the game boils down to frustrating flying challenges and doesn't impress the reviewer, who flatly calls it plain stupid and not a great game. Quite a contrast to the high praise on the last page. This page continues the absolute roasting of Superman 64, proudly displaying a score of 73%, immediately followed by a cheeky 2 reduction. The Y section makes it crystal clear. Unless you're a preschool Superman freak, you should ignore this completely, or risk some rather uncomfortable consequences involving stairs. The breakdown reveals the pain points, with graphics, sound, and gameplay scoring a measly 4 or 5 out of 10. Lastability gets a 7, but only because it's apparently the longest game ever, suggesting you won't ever want to touch it again. The main text continues the lament about repetitive ring sections and clunky flight controls, mentioning multiplayer exists but sounds equally disappointing. The superpowers section hilariously states they are about as super and power-like as farting in the bathtub and as smelly, accompanied by screenshots of powers like freeze breath and heat vision. A tip extra suggests if you bought it, run back to the shop for a refund, and if you were given it, think yourself lucky and never speak to the giver again. Finally, the other views section shows fellow staff and a reader mostly agreeing it's a pathetic game, though one poor soul claims they absolutely loved it. This page is all about getting stuck into what the readers think. Kicking off the readers' review section, we've got opinions flying on 3 crackers: Vigilante 8, Mario Kart 64, and South Park 64. First up, Vigilante 8 gets a cracking score from us lot at 92%, calling it a spaced-out shoot-'em-up with attitude. The readers mostly agree, loving the destruction, weapons and overall fun, with scores hitting 9,597%, though one fella felt it was a bit too much destruction derby. Then there's Mario Kart 64, which we rate a strong 91% for its pure multiplayer thrills. The readers are right there with us, giving it 94% for being an unreal second outing and a brilliant racing simulator. One lad reckons it's just plain racing mayhem and you must buy this game. Another loved the conversion from the SNES Classic. Finally, South Park 64 is on the block. We gave it 92%, saying it made us laugh out loud and was a must-have for fans. The reader reviews are a bit mixed though, ranging from a top 100% for being cool, funny, and action-packed, down to 59% calling it awful, and 70% declaring it a load of crap with repetitive controls. Looks like South Park is a bit Marmite. Pouring to Norsa Hasmau. Rain to Norsa Hasmau. The page rounds off by calling out for more reader reviews, asking you lot to send in your thoughts, and maybe even get your mugshot in the mag. Get involved! This page kicks off with a massive, colourful pull-out guide for Vigilante 8, linking nicely back to the reader reviews we saw on the last page. It's titled The Blagger's Guide to Vigilante 8, featuring that funky green alien chap holding a shotgun and some shots from the game. Looks like pure Chowchek driving fun, just like the readers said. It even promises to help you chill out and soothe your troubles away with this ultra-funky guide. Man, yeah! Elsewhere on the page we've got a few adverts. Max King Interfaces is flogging all sorts of bits and bobs, from smart cards and programmers, to cables and adapters. Gadget Zone is pushing Game Boy accessories, and Nintendo 64 development kit gizmos. Project K is advertising Pokemon and other console imports, like Star Wars Pod Racers and South Park. And down at the bottom there's an ad for a gaming cushion called Shagtastic, promising to be the ultimate gaming accessory to stop your bum going numb. Seems like a page packed with helpful gear, and a cool guide for a top game. This page continues that groovy Vigilante 8 guide we just started. It dives straight into the action, showing off the different modes of play you can jump into. You've got the main quest mode, which is the story bit where each character has a series of missions to complete. Then there's survival mode, the ultimate test of endurance against endless enemies, and arcade mode where you can pick a location and set up your own battles with various opponents. Flipping over to the right, it breaks down some of the characters/cars. You get a look at the drivers and their rides, along with their stats and what makes them tick. We see the likes of Chassis Blue in her 67 Rattler with her gridlock attack, John Torque riding his 74 Strider, unleashing bass Quake speakers, and Slick Clyde with his lightning attack from his 70 Clydesdale. Loki is here too, looking menacing with a scatter missile special. Sheila brings a tantrum gun, and Houston 3 is ready to track down enemies with his Death 3 axe. Each character has their own quote and quest objectives listed, giving you a taste of the vehicular chows that awaits. The next page continues our look at the Vigilante 8 roster, starting with Boogie in his 76 Leprechaun, rocking a disco ball special attack that just fills the screen with fireballs. Then there's Beeswax, driving a 76 Stag pickup, and unleashing radioactive bees. Sounds delightful, doesn't it? Down below, it spills the beans on the secret characters, which is jolly good info. Turns out you have to beat the game with certain character pairings to unlock them. We're talking Mollo with his pollution attack from his 66 school bus, Dave summoning UFOs in his 70 van, Sid Burn chucking Molotovs from his 69 Manta, Convoy firing a dynamite-strapped tire from his 73 Moth truck, and the rather suspicious EV alien in his 64 Luxo saucer, zapping folks with lasers. Unlocking them all gives you plenty more vehicular mayhem to get stuck into. Finally, we get a rundown of some rather tasty weaponry. There's the Skyhammer mortar for big area blasts, the trusty machine gun which is infinite ammo but not exactly a powerhouse, the Bullseye rocket which doesn't track but packs a punch, the Bruiser cannon with its powerful rockets, the sneaky roadkill mine you drop behind you, and the interceptor missiles that home in on targets. Handy stuff for causing chows. Oh, and there's a rather questionable alien with some dodgy hair asking about hairspray. Cheeky. Please provide the text you would like summarized. Warrington also has a mailvoy. This page dives straight into the chows of Vigilante 8, giving us the lowdown on how to dominate 3 distinct levels: the dusty ghost town, the wreckage-filled aircraft graveyard, and the imposing Hoover Dam. You've got useful maps showing where all the important bits are hidden. For the ghost town, it points out targets like the Indiana grounds, and a train that needs wrecking right near your start point if you're playing as Molo. It warns about the lower area being a bit of a pain with whirlwinds, suggesting you lure enemies into them. Classic. The aircraft graveyard section highlights the tall aircraft towers and surprisingly explosive teepees. It gives tips on finding hidden items in hangars and using the environment, like connecting towers to call in an airstrike on your enemies. Finally, at the Hoover Dam, it tells you where to find transformers on the road and mentions you can destroy the power plant to electrify the water, which sounds immensely satisfying. It also points out the handy black holes, nifty transponders apparently, for a quick getaway. The whole spread is packed with actionable tips for finding items and generally causing mayhem in these classic vehicular combat arenas. Vigilant 8 continues with 3 more levels: Valley Farms, destroy silos and barns, use wagons as ramps; Canyon Lands, target gas station, motel and ruins, use bridges and boulders; and Casino City, target Galaxy Hotel, wedding chapel, beware ambushes, use blimps. The levels feature diverse tactics, from using explosives and tidal waves to employing ramps and boulders, and are illustrated with humorous character interactions between a peaceful hippie and a grumpy farmer. This page jumps straight back into Vigilante 8, following on from those previous level breakdowns. We're hitting the ski resort now, which sounds like a right laugh. The objective is knocking out some condos down at the base of the mountain, and a ski lodge further up. The tips suggest being wary of explosions, which makes sense given the chows of the game, and using the ski lift to get around. Then there's a slightly terrifying warning about triggering avalanches by shooting down trees. Sounds like a spectacularly silly way to clear the area, or yourself. Below that, they've revealed the secret levels, which are apparently extra battle arenas you can unlock in survival or arcade modes, including a bizarre Super Dreamland 64 level with giant pigs and chickens, only on the N64 version naturally. There's also a handy list of cheat codes, if you fancy messing about with things like invincibility or gravity. The cool character art here is a nice touch too. Friggy. There's also a massive section from gameplay showing off all sorts of N64 kit and games for sale, but honestly, that's just pages of prices and peripherals. Essential stuff back then, but not exactly gameplay insights, is it? This page is diving into the nitty-gritty world of racing sims, with the cheat zone focusing on Monaco Grand Prix. We're getting the lowdown on a couple of classic tracks, Magny-Cours in France and Silverstone in Great Britain. Each track gets its own little guide, complete with a map handy for visualizing the layout obviously. They break down the circuit itself, giving you the feel of the place, then move on to the crucial stuff: setup and tactics. Magny-Cours sounds like a bit of a tricky one, focusing on negotiating specific corners like Estoril, and the sequence leading to Chateau d'Eau, with tips on downforce and suspension. Silverstone, a proper historic circuit, gets a mention for its long history and famous corners like Copse and Beckett's, but the focus here is mainly on wet weather driving and tyre choices based on humidity, which is peak British racing really. Right in the middle you've got our green alien pal from the Pro Crew perched on a rather shiny looking F1 car, announcing this is part 2 of their Monaco GP guide. Bit of a tease if you missed part 1, eh? The page also has little bubbles promoting other sections of the magazine, like Pro Arena and Reader's Reviews, just in case you weren't already engrossed in the racing lines. It's all about fine-tuning your skills to shave off those milliseconds, the mark of a true racing game fanatic. This page continues our deep dive into the Monaco Grand Prix simulation, but this time focusing on 3 other challenging circuits from the F1 calendar. First up is Hockenheim in Germany, a classic speed circuit known for its mega-long straights and tight stadium section. The guide talks about optimizing downforce for raw speed, while still being able to slam on the anchors for the chicanes. Proper balancing act. That setup here is apparently crucial for fast times late in the season. Then we head to the Hungaroring in Budapest, Hungary. Described as a slow, bumpy and narrow track, it's apparently a real test of concentration, where spin-offs are a constant threat. The tactics section mentions cunning strategies like running minimal fuel for an advantage, which sounds properly devious. It's a highway track too, so tyre management is key. Finally, we hit Monza in Italy, the temple of speed and home of the passionate tifosi. This one's all about hitting maximum velocity down those long straights, broken up by brutal chicanes. The guide stresses the importance of qualifying well here, which makes sense given how hard it is to overtake. Setup involves tweaking everything from aero to gearbox ratios to squeeze out every last kph. And our green alien friend is back, still utterly baffled by how to get his head into a rather natty racing helmet. Bless him, some things are just beyond extraterrestrial comprehension, eh? It's all about fine-tuning these virtual machines to perfection. This page reveals cheats for 3 N64 games: Mario Party, Castlevania, and Wipeout 64. Mario Party cheats include unlocking minigames, characters, and hidden boards, along with a way to skip the game's ending. Castlevania cheats offer alternative costumes, easy money, hidden secrets, and a harder difficulty. Wipeout 64 cheats focus on unlocking weapons, tracks, and the Piranha 2 ship, and accessing a challenge mode. A premium phone line provides further assistance for a fee. This page is packed with essential info. At the top, under the Cheat Zone heading, we've got a load of codes for Rogue Squadron. They promise you can look like a Jedi using the Force, which is essentially a cheat to make Luke's face look like a bearded bloke on the title screen. Classic. You can also unlock some cracking vehicles, like the Millennium Falcon and even a TIE Interceptor. There are codes for all power-ups, infinite lives, level select, messing with the radar, and even accessing the game's cutscenes and credits. Oh, and a hidden music test? Lovely stuff. Below that, there's a solid boss guide for the absolute masterpiece, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. It runs through strategies for taking down some key baddies, covering Queen Goma, King Dodongo, that irritating parasite, Volvagia, Phantom Ganon, Bongo Bongo, Tweenova, and even covers both forms of Ganon himself. It's just the sort of guidance you needed back then to finally nail those tricky fights. And of course, they've got the Tipex helpline prominently displayed, inviting readers to share their own secrets and tips via a premium rate phone number or even by post. Good times, good times. This page is all about the reader's dedication to the N64 classics, showcasing the Pro Arena high scores. It's where the best of the best show off their skills across a whole heap of titles. We've got top times and scores for everything from the slopes of 1080 snowboarding to the secret tunnels of GoldenEye 007, where one bloke from Dundee seems to be completely untouchable. Then there are the challenges from the massive Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, testing everything from horse racing to fishing. Yes, fishing! Who knew that would be a competitive sport? Time. The speed freaks aren't left out either, with blistering fastest laps from F1 World Grand Prix and the futuristic thrills of FF0X. And if racing karts is more your thing, there's a whole mountain of times from the brilliant Diddy Kong Racing covering loads of courses. Not forgetting the spray and speed of Wave Race 64 naturally. It's proper impressive to see the times people were putting in back then. There are also a few of the gaming gladiators featured, the readers who consistently top the charts, and a cracking little tale about Peter Biddle catching a massive fish to earn his Pro Crew stripes, even managing to get Zelda mentioned in the process. Classic stuff. This page really captures the competitive spirit of the time. This page continues the glorious Pro Arena high scores, showcasing more of the absolute best times and achievements from dedicated N64 players up and down the country, and even from Sweden, you know, the proper challengers. We've got the top players battling it out in Rare's absolutely cracking Banjo-Kazooie, listing times for various levels like Bubblegloop Swamp and Treasure Trove Cove. It's great to see who managed to nail those tricky platforming sections the fastest. Then there's the dogfighting prowess on display in Star Wars, Rogue Squadron, with some seriously swift times clocked for various missions like Ambush Mos Eisley. Gold medals all around, naturally. The action continues with Lilat Wars, or Star Fox 64 as you might know it, showing off maximum hits, and the ever-competitive Mario Kart 64, where people are chasing down those lightning-fast lap times on courses like Luigi Raceway and Choco Mountain. There's also a score for the puzzler Wii Tricks, with a photo of one of the top players featured. If you fancy seeing your own legendary achievements grace these pages, there's a handy guide on how to send in your scores and even challenge the mag team or other readers. Porcus. Finally, there's a big section dedicated to ordering back issues of the magazine, showing off some past covers and giving readers a chance to catch up on anything they missed, along with an order form. Get 'em while they're hot, eh? This page is all about the N64 community doing what they do best: trading, selling and chatting. The big centerpiece is the swap shop, where players are listing consoles, controllers, and tons of games like GoldenEye, Mario Kart, Banjo-Kazooie, and various sports titles up for grabs, looking for swaps or cash. It's a proper marketplace for N64 fans. Worry. We've got sections highlighting the wanted games, showing everyone was desperate for classics like South Park and Zelda, Ocarina of Time, with screenshots from those games. Conversely, the not wanted list surprisingly includes titles like GoldenEye and Turok. Must have finished them to death. Then there's the legendary shoutout section. This is where readers sent in messages to their mates, challenged rivals, or just put out general calls to the N64 world. It's full of specific requests and cheeky banter. The page also highlights specific deals like the swap of the month. Finally, there's a form at the bottom ready for you to send in your own deals, shoutouts, or personal info, proving the community was alive and well. This page is all about joining the Pro Crew, N64 Pro's very own club for dedicated fans. They've got this cool, slightly manic-looking character front and center, armed to the teeth, showing you mean business when you sign up. The big draw is getting the magazine delivered before anyone else sees it in the shops, and it won't cost you extra for the privilege. Plus, they promise loads of top stuff for the next year, including a funky fanzine, a flashy membership card, mystery gifts, extra cheats just for members, always a bonus, more competitions, and exclusive insider info. Best of all, you get the magazine itself for a bargain, £2.15 an issue, saving you a decent chunk. For £28 you get all that, plus an exclusive limited edition Pro Crew t-shirt, featured here modelled by a lovely lady. And if you sign up using direct debit, you're entered into a monthly draw to win a G64 steering wheel with rumble effect and foot pedals, which sounds like a blast. They make it easy to join with options for check, postal order, credit card or direct debit, and even a hotline number to call if you prefer. It's clearly the cool thing to do if you're serious about your N64 gaming. This page is all about the readers getting their say in the You Reckon section, featuring real letters from, you guessed it, real gamers. They kick things off by highlighting the sheer effort that went into selecting that picture of Buffy, clearly expecting some appreciation. We've got a few familiar faces popping up, like Mario looking confused and offering some unsolicited advice, a rather muscular-looking beast of a character, some dolphins, and a cool shot from Perfect Dark alongside its stylish alien protagonist. The letters cover a range of topics, from readers asking questions about technical stuff like gigabytes and polygons, to console wars heating up between the N64, PlayStation, and even the Dreamcast getting a look in. There's also plenty of chat about upcoming games like The Simpsons title, Grand Theft Auto and Zelda, plus readers asking about the magazine staff themselves. The replies from the N64 Pro Crew are exactly what you'd expect. Straight talking, often sarcastic, and never pulling any punches. It's a lively mix of questions, opinions, and the staff firing back with their usual wit. A new issue of You Reckon features high-quality reader letters, including inquiries about Resident Evil 64, GoldenEye help, and a Dennis the Menace game idea. N64 Pro staff address a Buffy game's absence and console comparisons, defending their position against reader criticism. Zelda 64's worthiness is debated. The Reader's Gallery showcases impressive artwork, including South Park fan art, with Graham Jones winning a prize. The magazine encourages continued submissions, subtly suggesting photos may improve chances. This page is a full-page advert for Computer Exchange, boasting their knowledge and services for buying, selling and exchanging games and hardware, including a big push for the shiny new Dreamcast console for £149.99. This page is all about the Game Boy Color, celebrating 10 years of the little handheld that just keeps going. Kicking things off big time is a preview for Pokémon, the absolute phenomenon that's finally heading our way. Looks like there are two versions, red and blue, where you'll be catching and trading creatures. Sounds like a massive time sink, but probably brilliant. There's even a bit about Pikachu becoming a huge star and a competition to win a Pocket Pikachu, which is one of those Tamagotchi-style gizmos. Warrant. We've also got a few reviews here. Legend of the River King sounds a bit odd. A fishing adventure that the verdict seems to think is a bit daft. Bless its cotton socks. Then there's Super Mario Deluxe, an updated version of the NES classic that's apparently incredibly addictive and a must-have. Booster Move 4 gets a look in too, called The King of the Puzzlers and Mother-in-Gnawing Addiction, which is high praise indeed. Finally, WWF Attitude is reviewed. It's got loads of detail but seems to lack a bit of visual polish compared to other wrestling games. Over in the news, some seriously cool stuff. Japanese players will soon be able to connect their Game Boy to the internet using a mobile phone to download games. How futuristic is that? And even more surprising, Sega themselves are getting into the Game Boy game, with Sonic apparently on the way. The little machine is definitely still pulling its weight. This page is a cracking N64 buyer's guide, presented as a trip through Nintendo Park. You've got a suave-looking explorer chap with a butterfly net, a very enthusiastic Donkey Kong, and little Mario popping his head up, ready for a new adventure. Over on the right, a couple of characters from A Bug's Life are having a bit of a chat, which is a fun touch. Down the left, it's a rundown of various N64 titles, mostly in the shooting genre, with scores and brief descriptions. You've got absolute heavy hitters, like GoldenEye 007 scoring a massive 96%, Turok 2 at 94%, and Duke Nukem 0 Hour getting a mention. It also covers other gems like Vigilante 8, Body Harvest, Lylat Wars, that's Star Fox 64 to us, and Rogue Squadron. They give you a quick lowdown on each, player counts, price, and what accessories you might need. Then, the highlight for many, Parky's Top 5, this is where they list the absolute essential games for the N64. Topping the list is the legendary Zelda, followed by the brilliant IS-98, GoldenEye making another appearance, can't get enough of it, the fantastic Banjo-Kazooie, and the timeless Super Mario 64, a list of undisputed classics that every N64 owner should have in their collection. This page continues the buyer's guide adventure, taking us into the world of speed and rumble. Over on the left we've got a cracking lineup of racing games. You'll see top-tier titles like F1 World Grand Prix and 1080 snowboarding scoring in the high 90s, right down to some less thrilling options lower down the list. Mario Kart 64, Diddy Kong Racing, and Wave Race are of course essential N64 racing classics getting the scores they deserve. It covers everything from realistic sims to arcade blastabouts and even snowboarding. Speaking of rumble, there's a section dedicated to the vital rumble packs. Apparently they're the best add-on ever invented and absolutely key for finding secrets in Zelda. You've got a few different options shown here, from the official Nintendo one to third-party alternatives with memory built in. Then, for the serious patrol heads, we move on to steering wheels. This section highlights various wheels promising the ultimate racing experience. There's a range from the top-rated Top Gear logic to the more compact options. It's all about getting that wheel in your hands for games like 4-1 or Gran Turismo 64, even if some don't include pedals or rumble. And to round it off, Donkey Kong is there, looking rather confident about his chest, stating, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, you can't touch this hammer time." A bit of classic N64 silliness, really. This buyer's guide section focuses on fighting games and other adventures, examining controllers. Racing games like Automobili Lamborghini, 72%, and California Speed, 20%, received mixed reviews. Fighting games fared better with Smash Bros, 85%, and Mortal Kombat 4, 85%, praised. Other titles like Fighter's Destiny and Biofreaks also scored well. Classic arcade games like Space Station, 92%, and Buster Move also received high marks. The guide concludes with an in-depth look at N64 controllers, comparing official and third-party options, noting the official Nintendo pad as the best. This page dives into the platforming and sports sections of the buyer's guide, plus a few handy accessories. You've got your absolute crackers like Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64 leading the charge in platforms, scoring a mighty 96% and 94% respectively. Proper must-plays those. Further down you'll find others like Yoshi's Story, Bomberman Hero, and the quirky Mischief Makers, though some like A Bug's Life clearly didn't impress much, at a rather dismal 58%. Over in sports, IS-98 is the king with a cracking 96%, though ISS-64 and FIFA 99 are also highly rated at 90% and 93%. Loads of other sports titles are packed in too, covering baseball, tennis, Madden football, both 98 and 99, Winter Olympics, and wrestling with WWF Warzone. Kenny from South Park even pops up looking rather menacing. Finally, there's the other stuff section. Crucial bits like memory packs are shown, essential for saving your progress, naturally. Then there are expansion packs to boost performance, a third-party RAM expansion, looks a bit rough apparently, and the rather sneaky action replay for cheating your way through games. And hey, even the Game Boy Color gets a look in, looking bright and yellow there. Good stuff all around, mostly. The next page keeps the buyer's guide rolling, diving deeper into various genres. You've got more sports titles here, like FIFA 98, NFL Quarterback Club, and NBA Jam, all getting decentish scores, although FIFA 64 seems to have really missed the mark according to the review, scoring a rather rubbish 34%. There's also some wrestling with WCW vs NWO, and a few other bits like VR Pool. Inja. Moving into the adventure section, we see the absolute masterpiece that is Zelda 64 hitting a staggering 98% best game ever made, apparently, and yeah, hard to argue with that. Castlevania gets a decent shout at 88%, and Mission Impossible scores a respectable 92%. Mystical Ninja is in there too. Over in other stuff, Pilotwings 64 gets a cracking 91%, while Mario Party brings multiplayer chows at 87%. Blast Corps is also high up at 84%, for some wanton destruction. Rampage Universal Tour is mentioned, but maybe not one to rave about too much at 37%. There's also a section highlighting Parky's top 5 guides, featuring books for Turok 2, Castlevania 64, Game Boy Secrets, Zelda, Pokemon, and WCW/NWO Revenge. Looks like plenty of paperbacks to help you if you're stuck. You've also got some familiar faces like Pikachu, Mario, and Luigi dotted about the page, adding a bit of character. This page dives headfirst into the glorious world of the Game Boy Color with a proper buyer's guide. It features a bunch of games like the legendary Legend of Zelda, obviously amazing they say, the classic puzzler Tetris DX, and the ever-hopping Frogger. They also list titles like the Smurfs Nightmare, Lucky Luke, Maya the Bee, Harvest Moon, the Rugrats movie, Bugs Bunny and Lola Bunny, Wario Land 2, Drop Zone, Rally, Super Breakout, All-Star Baseball 2000, Obelix, 720, Top Gear Rally, Game & Watch Gallery, and Hexite, which they seem to think is a bit rubbish hilariously. There's also a section showing off some essential Game Boy goodies, like the Protector, Handy Pack, Power Pack, Travel Pack, Super Zoom, and Pulse Pack. Everything you needed to trick out your handheld back in the day. Finally, there's Parky's Big Game Hunt, a puzzle where you have to answer questions based on the content of this page, and take the first letter of each answer to spell out a prize. Looks like a bit of fun if you fancy a hunt. This page is packed with previews for what's coming up. First off, we've got a look at Premier Manager 64, asking if you're rubbish with your formations or messing up in midfield. Sounds like they'll be dishing out some top tips from TipX to get your virtual team sorted and ready to kick off your new season in style. Over in the Red Hot News section, they're teasing us with a preview of Resident Evil 64. Can't wait to see how that turned out on the N64. They've also got their hands on Shadow Man, saying the latest version rules, and they'll be spilling the beans next month. Looks like a proper dark and gritty adventure is on the cards. There's also a shout out for a massive World Driver Championship guide, promising to help you pedal to the metal without fear. And naturally, there's a section dedicated to the all-important cheat zone. The magazine also lists its staff and publisher details. The rest of the page is primarily taken up by adverts for a discount club, huge lists of N64 games and accessories with prices, special offers, free gifts, and shop locations. Basically, everything you need to lighten your wallet back then.